Hey cousins, welcome to Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas.
Welcome, cousins, to this episode of Brown Liquor and Bad Ideas. I'm your host, Cornell Wright, the People's Lobbyist. Today, cousins, we're going to talk about the election of 2020 and some of the things that have happened after the election that should be important and concern to all of us. Based upon where we are now, and as of November 25th, certainly all the states have had additional votes coming in from absentee ballots for people around the world, military personnel, etc. They're still being counted, but the numbers seem to be pretty set at this point in time. A number of states have gone through nearly and certified their votes for their municipalities and their states. As it turns out, for the president, you need 270 electoral college votes in order to win. At this point in time, President-elect Joe Biden has 306. President Trump has 232. Keep in mind, the goal and the target is 270, okay? You look at the popular vote. On the popular vote, the way the numbers are coming in now is that President-elect Biden has about 51% of the votes, and President Trump has about 47% of the votes. The remaining votes are still caught up in other parties. The people voted for other people, other parties that they had that opportunity for. So, cousins, those are the numbers that we have. Those are numbers of November 25th. That's it. What has happened as a result of this should be concerned to all of us, and that is a misinformation campaign. I talked about that a few episodes ago, misinformation and disinformation. What are those? Those are when people come out and present information that's not correct, not accurate, and wants to move people away from what is the truth. That misinformation, cousin, are techniques that are used by people who want to overturn democracies, who want to undermine our trust and belief in our electoral system. And in fact, this electoral system this year was the most secure we've had in the United States of America. Now, for some of you who've been watching the programs for a while, you remember that back earlier on, I said, gee, I really wish there was somebody who was in charge based upon the information that was presented that showed that Russia had hacked our elections in 2016. Well, I want to make sure that I'm as accurate as I can with you, cousins, and so I want to let you know that there's a guy by the name of Chris Krebs. Now, maybe you didn't see it, but Chris Krebs was on TV in November 29th on 60 Minutes. You know that show on CBS, the one that tells the truth about almost everything? And even if they sometimes get something small wrong, they tell you and clear it up the next episode? That's 60 Minutes. They had this guy, Chris Krebs, and he was a former director of CISA, okay, which is the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency associated with Homeland Security. Those are the people that I was asking for who said these folks are going to make sure that our election was going to be locked down and tight so that foreign actors, foreigners, would not be able to impact us negatively. The project was called Project 2020, if I did my reading correctly. This gentleman was in charge of that. He worked with the federal government, multi-agencies, state and local governments, all working what? To ensure that our election for 2020 was valid and safe. Everybody's vote had to count. So he actually certified that, ladies and gentlemen, on TV and in public announcements, and in contrary to positions that were being presented by President Trump. Shortly after he did that, delivering a successful election for all of us cousins, he was fired from his position. Why? Because he told the truth. And when he said that, and you check it out on TV, there's been other newscasts, he said the reason I had to do what I had to do and not go along with the misinformation that was being extended out to the cousins, the rest of the country, is because he swore on the preamble to the Constitution to uphold it against, defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Now, cousins, everybody who works in the federal government, all the military people, you know that if you've done through that, they all swear to the Constitution, not to any person, not to any party. He made a decision, Chris Krebs, that he was going to uphold his oath to the Constitution of the United States and be able to stand up and say that no, the elections this year were correct. I have it on personal authority from someone who I know that in one of the states, he was directly involved with managing the electoral process in that state. There were, in fact, foreign actors who tried to have hits on our systems. But you know what? They failed. They failed because people started working hard at it across the country, both Democrats and Republicans, in order to what? Make sure we had a fair vote. So now, cousins, you look at that. You talk the interview with Chris Krebs. What does he say? We identified that the best way to handle this was to not only have paper ballots and have electronic ballots so you could always have a paper trail. Make sense, cousins? Because a paper trail is something you can go back and count later. So here we are now, cousins, a few weeks after the election. There have been a number of states who have actually had to be re-audited, had recounts, and there's been numerous lawsuits. All of those have turned out to say the votes were the same, the calculations were correct, and the lawsuits were frivolous. Cousin, why is anybody going to present misinformation on such a grand scale about something that's so important to all of us, in fact, even to the basis of our democracy? That's wrong. That's a bad idea, cousins. Now, I know some of you cousins out there maybe have even submitted money in to help with legal defenses for this. Maybe even to talk about stealing the elections. Maybe even concerned about thinking there was something untoward. But let me ask you one question, cousins who don't believe. Did anybody else who was elected, either made election or not election, come out and say that there was fraud in their election? Anybody? I haven't heard any of the other people, congressmen or senators who got elected, or any of the various races who came in and say, it was wrong in my state, or it was wrong in my district. If you haven't heard any of that, cousins, that's a whole lot of people across our nation who definitely said that things went correctly. And aside from which, in all the states across the country, you had the various board of electors, both people who were both Democrats and Republicans, pretty much by mandate and law, in all the states, people who worked real hard. You saw them on TV doing the counts and the recounts. People were working hard in order to make sure what? Our democracy was being maintained and not being undermined by misinformation. Cousins, misinformation is not a good thing. It tears us apart. It doesn't unite us. And so for all you cousins who are out there having any questions or concerns, just think about that for a moment. And let me use the old expression. You're going to believe me or your lying eyes. If everybody else, all the courts, all the states, everybody else has said this was right and worked out well, who are you going to listen to? And what information are you going to accept in the absence of no information on the other side? Remember I talked to you a couple weeks ago, cousins, about being binary? This is a binary decision. All right, cousins, you take care of yourselves. Guess what? Keep wearing your masks, okay? Because COVID is still here. Even though we're getting information about vaccines, it's still going to be a little while. I know we all had a chance to work through Thanksgiving. We're going to make our way through the holidays. Protect yourselves. Why, cousins? Because I care about you. I want you to care about me. Take care of yourselves till next episode.
We are the people.